Coming up, as we take a look once again at the draft odds for the Brooklyn Nets, the most likely spot that they're going to pick is 7th or maybe 8th, but that's where the deal gets done. And we ask the question, could that still be a sweet spot to land some franchise talent? We dive in next.
You are Locked On Nets, your daily Brooklyn Nets podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, my friends, it is the Locked On Nets podcast right here on the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team, the Brooklyn Nets, every single day. He's Doug Norrie. I'm Adam Armbrecht. We thank you, as always, for making us your first listen of the day. We're 100% free on all those great platforms. And Doug, I'm going to tell you a story right now. The two players that we're going to discuss today might be more intriguing for me from a draft prospect than when we talked about previous ideas like Jeremiah Fears or even Molly Watch, who I think we both would say are suspect when looking at that 6th position. Now we talk 7th and 8th.
Yeah, we'll get into this part of the draft. Like, there are some definitely exciting guys. I think there's a few guys here that seem more like maybe Sean Marksian guys, and we'll kind of maybe like pick apart whether or not that's like ends up being the case. But we'll talk about Kasparas Jakucionis and Derik Queen, respectively, two very different prospects. But this is where, too, if you like look in the draft coverage and you're reading different people's boards and you're kind of doing deeper dives on the stuff, this is the part of the draft that begins to like really wildly diverge in some spots. Like there are people that are really high on some of these guys and then like an equal group that is like really low. And so if you look at like sort of aggregated picks, you'll see these guys falling in the 8th and 9th, but the range on where these guys are going is like considerably wider, which is like to be expected to some degree. Like, the range on Cooper Flagg is 0 because the mode median and range is all, those are all 1, and then the range is 0. And basically for Dylan Harper too. And then it starts to like flare out. But this is where, like, especially for a guy like Jakucionis, I'm gonna say his name wrong almost for sure a couple times here.
I don't
know. There's like
before we started recording.
There's wide ranges of outcomes on these guys, and you can definitely tell your story, kind of like with Molly Watch yesterday, maybe to some degree Fears. You can tell yourself a story, and the really high end story is like really exciting, and then the other side of the story is really scary if you just got the 7th or 8th pick in the draft and that was your one shot and you're like, and it's kind of wait till next year to pick in the lottery again. And I think these guys represent this, but I do think the upside on these guys is maybe greater than what we talked about from at least from Fears and Molly Watch yesterday.
Yeah, that's actually the first thing I was going to say. And as the reminder, obviously, from a 7th and 8th pick perspective, the Brooklyn Nets have a near 20 or 30%, I should say, chance to land 7th, and then almost 21% to land in the 8th spot. Combined, they have a 36% chance to get 1 through 4, but no greater than 9.6%. So this is the sweet spot. Like, even when we talk about the 6th overall pick, that's actually less likely for them to land there than it is that they land in the top 4, 8.6%. You just mentioned it, though. We're going through, as we said, you can only use a board as frame of reference to talk about these players. Certainly after you get near the chalk at the top of the draft, you're just going to start talking about fit and feel and what you like. Both the players we're going to discuss today, I would probably, at least in this moment, make stronger cases that these are guys I'd be discussing at 6 over Molly Watch, over Fears, for a lot of different reasons. But these guys to me are more intriguing prospects. One from a backcourt standpoint, thinking about ball handling, facilitating. The other, we talk about athleticism when we'll get into Queen. But how about this? I've been enjoying doing these since we started talking about all these prospects. There's one when we think about, I'm not even going to bother saying his name. I'm going to leave it for you to repeat it because I've already got tongue-tied enough. But Podziemski would be a comparable for our first prospect, as well as old friend Spencer Dinwiddie. Little convergence of bubbles in terms of skill sets. When we think about a player that is going to be capable of being a floor general, is very creative with the ball in his hands, making opportunities for teammates. And I think in terms of the prospects we talked about from a ball handling standpoint, he is maybe in the conversation for the best read and react to defenses player that you could talk about here in the top of the draft for the Brooklyn Nets as well.
Yeah, Jakucionis like projects as a pure point guard.
Jakucionis. I'm okay.
It's right. He projects as a pure point guard with good size. Like he's 6'6". So you like that to like start, right? He has pretty good vision to maybe like elite vision, depending on what you want to say. Although it's funny because like the I think the vision projects, and like when you watch it play out like through tape and through the season, it's like, oh, I can see it, but then the numbers, he has like a 4.7 to 3.7 assist to turnover ratio. So you're like, well, that's not exactly like a guy with elite vision, but there are like sort of like things that go on in the college game.
I'm blaming other players for that. I'm blaming guys aren't in the right spots.
I mean, you definitely can. You definitely can. But I think if you like when you watch it when it's really going well, I think you can like tell your story that like, okay, this is something this guy can definitely do. So he has a requisite size, which you like to see. The handle is really good. He can get into the pick and roll. I think the shooting is going to be pretty good to maybe very good, depending on what, like the numbers kind of didn't bear this out. But if you look at the form and you look at his free throw percentage, and the shooting kind of dipped at the end of the year, which might have been just like a general fatigue. He did have like an injury late in the year too, I think, which kind of submarined some of his stats. So like the 3-point shooting doesn't jump off the page, but if you watch him shoot, it's like, oh, that looks pretty good coming out of his hand. So I think like from those three elements, and actually I would not have used Pods as like a Pajemski as like a comp, but like the highest end comp that I've seen, I'm not, and by the way, I'm not saying this. I just read this from more than one place. So I want to be really careful about this because the name I'm about to throw out is like for sure not. If I said it, I think with no backup, that people would be like, "What?" But I have seen him comped multiple times to Tyrese Halliburton as the ceiling case, and I'm like, okay, well, first of all, many people just sometimes have a very difficult time making like every white guy just gets comped to another white guy. So I'm just gonna say it out loud, like that's just what happens like every single time. So I don't know another way. There's no other way for me to say it. It's like so and I get why it happens for sure, but I just want to avoid that. And that's with the Halliburton thing. It's interesting because it's like Halliburton didn't have like crazy high athleticism coming out of college, but there was other parts of his game that worked really well. Like he had good change of pace, he had decent size, the length was good, like he made up for it in a lot of different ways. We've seen Halliburton kind of like translate that to totally elite vision at the NBA level. So I think if you're like thinking about the highest ceiling case, I mean, like maybe there's a Halliburton in his range, and I don't know. I think that there's a part of that kind of, I think you can tell yourself a nice story, or maybe like even like a D-Lo, which is like the lower end of that, where it's like run, pick and roll, and kind of like end up being an okay shooter, and that all kind of works. So I'm throwing a lot of names out here, but overall, I think if you watch Jakucionis' stuff and see it in play out in real time, I think that there is a reason like first, like if we're comparing him to Fears, I would for sure take Jakucionis over Fears. Like I'm not actually not even sure that would be close for me personally. And I think some people would be like, oh, no way. And it kind of might just be like what kind of style you like. And I think like this kind of slowed down, speed up style with like the shooting to maybe get back behind it is something I'd be really into.
Yeah, I mean, I probably have Fears close. We talked about this yesterday, but Fears closer to 10 than I do to 5, right? Like just if we're putting him in there. And Jakucionis has at least the on paper skill sets that you like the way they can project. The other part of his game too. So it's funny because we've been doing this a lot now with these prospects. When we talk about Derik Queen, we're going to talk about freak athlete. When we talk about Jakucionis, we're talking about, okay, he's not going to be the most athletic guy on the floor. Offensively, you like the style of his game. Defensively, and this is just to put all the aspects together, you have to hope that he can hold up defensively with his length and his size, and you can keep him in good positions. There's probably going to be a world where he matches up against Jeremiah Fears in one of these games at the NBA level. And you go, this guy's blasting past him with pure speed.
Oh, he'd kill him. So, he would kill him. Yeah, he would kill him. So, like he would blow right past him. Yeah. Right.
So
and I think that like, he gets caught in a no man's land with his size at point guard because he's too slow to guard ones, but he's probably too unathletically and a little bit too unathletic to guard threes. And so like you kind of get put in this twos range, but even like there's like some off ball twos that would give him problems. Like the defense for sure. And we've dinged the other guys in the defense. So we have to be fair here on the defense too. Like there's no eye popping off the stuff. Like if it was him, Jeremiah Fears hitting him one-on-one, I think Fears would blow by him like a turnstile each time. It's just like there was a few other parts of his game that I could kind of like tell myself a better story on. And I think that's sort of where it all kind of lands.
I'll actually throw out here before we go to break and come back with Derik Queen on the other side. if you matched him up against, and this isn't a knock on a Cam Thomas, but a Cam Thomas is a grinder in creative space. He's not a speedster. I actually think like you'd say, oh, he might be able to like use his size and a little bit of length to frustrate a player of that type of mold offensively. When you get into more speed, and certainly if you're talking about a guy that has a range of handles to his game, that's where Jakucionis is going to have some issues. But again, I'd still put him up there, probably starting to position him close to the top 6 in terms of the way the board looks right now. So 7 or 8, be a good spot for him. Coming up here in a second, though, what about this other guy? What about this other guy out of Maryland? He's a Terp, and his name is Derik Queen. He shot up the draft boards, obviously, over the back end of the college season. We'll dive into him, the freak athleticism, and probably a concerning comp that I could make for the NBA here in just one moment.
All right, before we get to that, tell you our friends over at Upwork. Look, if you're scaling your business, it requires the right expertise at the right time. With Upwork, you can find specialized freelancers, marketing, development, design, so much more. That's experts ready to help you take your business to the next level. Upwork gives business flexibility, connects you with top freelance talent across multiple industries, including IT, AI, web development, marketing, and maybe you need extra hands for a project or a long-term partner. Upwork makes hiring simple and affordable. You're going to find the right talent. It's super fast and easy hiring. It's going to be cost-effective growth for your company or just for yourself too. Visit Upwork.com right now and post your job for free. That's UPWORK.com. Upwork.com to connect with top talent and grow your business today. And ready to done with that? Heading over to our friends over at Gametime. Look, there's nothing like the atmosphere of an NBA playoff game. Not for the Nets this year, but there's plenty of action to go across the NBA, which has been ridiculous this year. Every bucket, every defensive stop, every moment feels huge. It's electric in the arena. Gametime, you can be part of it without the stress of last-minute ticket hunting. Look, Gametime makes it fast and easy to get playoff tickets, even when demand's sky high. Prices on the app actually go down. That's the graph you like to see. Down as tip-off gets closer, and their last-minute deals save you up to 60%. You get that 60% off buying last minute for sports, concerts, comedy, theater. It's all there. If you're on Gametime, they get the all-in pricing too. There's not going to be any surprise fees at checkout. What you see is what you pay. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app. Create an account. Use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed.
All right. As we continue today's Locked On Nets episode, talking about the draft, talking about picks 7, maybe picks 8, and whether or not the Brooklyn Nets can find a gem there. When we get to the Derik Queen of it all, there's a lot to like about him. Like, this is athleticism, this is upside, this is also like a guy that's got a little bit of like old school down around the rim to his game, maybe just enough handles though to work off the dribble. There's some things here. It's like all there on paper. I like his upside. The one part about I'm gonna start negative here and then we can go positive. When you look up his profile and they're like, hey, concerns could be fitness, my mind immediately flashes to a little young gentleman playing down in New Orleans for the Pelicans. Not because they're the same player, but just like, oh, big dude with some skills, but maybe can't keep it all together. That has to be at least an eyebrow raise when you're picking this high in the draft. Not if you're maybe picking late in the first, but top 10 pick, you have to look at all aspects of a player when you're projecting him for the NBA.
I mean, if it was like 1998, he'd be like the number 2 pick in the draft. I think like he would be so high. It's got like an old school feel to it. He likes to get in the post. He is a crazy athlete. It seems like he wants to get in the block. He destroyed guys in the block this year, like lesser college players. And there's times where it just looked kind of unstoppable, but he was also playing in a style that like no one in the NBA plays at all. And so it's like, what do you do here? Because if you want to, so you're going to be, what do you be, Zach Randolph? Like you're going to be like a low post, kind of like just like big body that just like bodies like, bad switches. It's like, well, no one does that. So at the same time,
so great about it. Catch them off
when
guard.
You watch him,
you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's like eye popping at times, sort of like what he can do on the court. And I wanted desperately, I watched a lot of film on it. Like I wanted desperately to tell myself like the full Derik Queen story about why he should be like much higher on the board. And I think that I can kind of do it in some ways because you're like, well, you get like the 6'10". I wouldn't call him a freak athlete, but it's like he definitely just jumps off the page at you.
Yep.
I think he like plays pretty smart. Like he's a really good rebounder. I think the shooting could come around. It's like he never shot any threes, but he was like decent from the line. And I think the form, it's like not perfect, but it's okay. There was times I was watching this. This is like not any kind of like high level scouting. I was watching like the stuff and I was like, man, I wanted to move him so high. Because I was like, but then the problem is when you watch it, it's like a lot of this stuff doesn't happen in the NBA. And this is the problem. Like a lot of the stuff that he was doing in the modern NBA, no one's getting down and bodying guys in the post and like, ripping and grinding all day long, like old school Memphis Grizzlies style.
Not on
That's
the
just
court
like,
anymore. Not on the court.
it's not like a grounded, no, it's like not a ground and pound kind of thing here. And so it just is like so old school. And so I think that like there's a part where if you watch this college stuff, you could get really excited because it looked dominating. And if you wanted to be like an old head basketball guy, you're like, oh, I could see this, right? But it's like, it's just not exactly how it's played. So I'm repeating myself here a little bit. So I'm very high in him because I actually think some of the stuff is going to come around here that he just didn't really flash in college. Yep. Like I think he does maybe start shooting a little bit, but it is scary. But like in terms of like straight up crazy upside, like he's one of these guys where if he went 12th, let's say he slips to 12th. He's a guy I really believe in like 4 years. He's the kind of guy you'd be like, he went 12th, right? Yeah. Like what happened? Like that's like kind of, I don't have no other way to put it. Like if he slipped, I think he'd be a guy that got like, he punished you for like kind of missing on him. And I haven't thought that about a bunch of guys so far.
Yeah, it's interesting if you thought about like, we talked about Colin Knipple, we talked about Molly Watch, Trey Johnson, athletic. I think Trey Johnson in some ways, even though he feels like he's higher on the board, he has that same type of thing. If he puts some of the game together, you go, oh, like all of the things you dream on about him with the athleticism could really pay dividends. But there's guys that we've discussed, right? That you would turn around and say, oh yeah, Derik Queen over X, Y, and Z a season or two from now could feel very reasonable. The other thing that I'll say is he played 36 games at Maryland. And he had a combined, hard math, 106 assists and steals. And he also had 39 blocks to go along with it. 67 steals and 67 assists, 39 steals, 39 blocks. I think with all the athleticism and that stuff we talk about down low and an old school basketball, if the court vision and the IQ is there at the NBA level, now it's different because now it's not just that you're trying to work into the low block and do something that most of the NBA isn't doing anymore. Now it's actually that you're drawing attention and then opening up opportunities, right? Like we don't think about this and these aren't comparables, which is the current Nets front for guys in the front court, right? Nicholas Claxton is not a court vision guy who's opening up opportunities for others. Even though Daron Sharp can rebound the heck out of the basketball, that's all that he's really doing, right? So if you get a guy with body and size that doesn't necessarily have a shooting touch and isn't expanding the range, but can do something very effective around the basket and still help the team open up the floor, that I think is probably like that non ultra athletic piece of his game that you have to dream on to maybe spike the real value on him, right? Like, I mean, that to me is a big part of what I like from what I watched on him.
Like, let's compare him to like another Nets guy, like a Noah Clowney, right? Like who's like similar size, like 6'9", 6'10", 6'11", like this. Like his game is so different. Like Clowney was like ended up becoming like a stretch big this year. Even out of college, it was like chase down block, kind of like smaller body, but could like get out in space and defend. That's actually not how Derik Queen plays at all. Like he gets in the short roll and was a pretty good passer out of the short roll. Like he can face you up in the block and actually put the ball on the deck and dribble, like and actually beat guys one-on-one with like the ball in his hand. Like those are things like Clowney could never do. Now he's not very good on defense for his size.
That's okay.
He gets caught a little bit in between with his overall size and length because it's like maybe not going to be an elite post defender. Didn't have like had some defensive stuff there, but it like Molly Watch, like for instance, like I think translates as like a sort of like could be like an elite defender. Like I don't think Derik Queen gets there, but Queen, he might post you up. He might actually get the ball like on a pick and roll, on a short roll, and actually put the ball on the deck and blow past you. And you're like, oh, where'd that come from? Like that's the kind of thing that could happen for him. And it's that part of his game that I think is like really exciting. It's where it's like, well, if it came around even a little bit, like it turned into pick and pop, or he could like punish defenses a little bit by not being able to play total drop on him or something. Now you have a guy who could have gone like 6 or 5 or something like really a lot higher. So I sometimes want to bet on this stuff because I think it's, again, you can't coach the size. We said this like 1,000 times. You can't coach the size into somebody, but you can maybe coach the other stuff. And if he has like court vision, which he does, and he's willing to pass, which he is, I don't know. You can hear me kind of stumbling because these are the guys. This is hard. Anyone that has like these firm opinion, I never trust these guys. Sometimes that have just like are all in takes on people, but that may be just me waffling.
I don't know. Most of the time, I think the reason why people go with convictions around a prospect is really just for the sole fact if they end up being right, you just say, listen, I die in the hill. Nobody really remembers the misses because the draft is fluky. But if you say 1,000%, Derik Queen's going to be one of the best players, top 3 talent coming out of the draft, you look great 2 years from now, right? So a little bit of hedging around it. But guess what? That's what some of these prospects are in this range. Come up here in a second. Let's go ahead and play the roster lineup game between these two players. I'll give Doug 2 lineups, and he'll tell me which one he'd prefer going into next season. We'll do that here in just one moment. All right.
Before we get to that, tell you about our friends over. No. Well, hold on a second, buddy. We're going to talk a
I'm
little bit about Open
yeah,
Phone.
That's for you. Yeah.
Tell you about our friends over at Open Phone. There you go. If you're running a business, you know every missed call is money left on the table. Think about the last time you had an urgent need and maybe a plumber or a service provider. Person didn't answer. You can wait. Probably not. You just moved on. That's why you need Open Phone. Open Phone is the #1 business phone system. It's built to streamline and scale your customer communications, all from an app on your phone or computer. Open Phone lets you manage business calls and texts from a single app. Got a shared inbox feature too, a total game changer. Your team can jump into any conversation instantly without missing a beat. Open Phone is offering listeners 20% off your first 6 months at openphone.com/LockedOnNBA. That's OPENPHONE.com/LockedOnNBA. Hey, I got an existing number with another service. No problem. Open Phone will port it over at no extra charge. Open Phone. No missed calls, no missed customers.
All right. As we tie a pretty little bow on today's Locked On Nets episode, I'm giving nothing back. I'm leaving it all out on the podcast court today. Talking about the draft, pick 7 and 8, talking about Jakucionis and talking about Derik Queen. Okay, lineup game here. If you can walk into next season and
Cooper Flag.
Okay, good. Get all the dreams out of your head now. Put all those dreams out there. Dylan Harper. No? Okay, fine. Next. Ace Bailey. I'll go again. I'm like playing press your luck on whammy. Jakucionis and Thomas in your backcourt. And just for sake of argument, it's Johnson, Clowney, and Claxton. That's your front court, right? Or you're walking in with, I don't know, TBD, let's call it D-Lo, with Cam Thomas in the backcourt. And then your front court becomes Johnson, Clowney, and Queen. And you treat that overpriced son of a gun, Nicholas Claxton, like the elite bench role player that he is. Which lineup would you be more excited to watch opening night?
Oh, the first one by a million miles. The second one would get totally dumpster. I think
not about the numbers all the time, you know.
Okay, so but that doesn't necessarily.
By the way, isn't there a glaring thing? Sorry, I just like that. What I just realized in offering those, because I just wanted to comp. Oh, this is what it would look like, right? But the immediate thing to rise up, you go, right. Still don't really have what we would call a high quality backcourt, right? I mean, that's still the #1 problem with a double underline. As good as D'Lo was this past season, I think answering that question matters. Whether it's Jakucionis or somebody else, the front court has issues too. We need more. I mean, listen, the team's bad. There's a reason why they're in the tank here. But when you look at that, it jumps off the page about getting a high-level floor general in Jakucionis potentially, and then saying that helps everybody. That helps everybody. Derik Queen doesn't necessarily help everybody as good as we may think he could be.
Yeah. Now, whether the team would be better like 5 years from now, I'm not sure. Because if you're like really high in Queen, then like maybe that's just a difference. I mean, clearly for next year, the first lineup is like so much better because they already kind of have, they don't have it solved, but they're better in the front court as it stands now than they are in the backcourt where they kind of don't have anything. And they have Cam. They still haven't signed Cam Thomas, but I think we would say Cam Thomas is like a good NBA player who's a weird fit. I think that's that's fair. I think that's a fair thing to say. It's like he's a good player, and if he keeps progressing like we saw at the end of the year, where like the vision got better, then it may be his wheels up on his game. But I just don't know if the sample size is there enough. And we already know like the defense is probably just always going to be a problem for him, and so you just kind of run into problems. But like he can score as good as anybody in the NBA, pretty much. So. But again, it's like a weird fit. So anyway, long story short, I think that first lineup would be like considerably better basketball wise. It's just a matter of I really am fascinated for this draft to see like what the Nets are going to value in terms of like upside to compare
good
to
basketball
floor
players.
because I'll take that. But like the Nets, this draft is full of cases like where it's kind of like pick your poison about what it is you want. Like, do you want straight up unbridled upside with maybe deep flaws in the game? Or do you want to go for super high floor, but the ceiling is kind of capped because of size or athleticism or something like that, right? Like there's a lot of different guys like this. Like every guy fits into these categories. It's like a lot of them have one elite skill.
Yeah.
And then like one glaring weakness, whether that is like they're just IQ, whether it's like their shooting, whether it's their athleticism, whether it's just whatever it is. And so I do wonder. I just wonder what the Nets will value. And it's funny. I think they're going to value unbridled upside. I think they're not going to go for floor here. I think they're going to go for like, what's the peak case that we could get out of this guy? And let's just shoot everyone like that. And the reason I think that maybe, like, I think Derik Whitehead was an example of this, where it's like, what's the upside case? He gets fully healthy, and he's back to like the best 4 guys in that draft class, right? Okay. The worst case scenario is he's out of the league because the foot never gets better. Like that's a risk, but it's real because like you can draft other guys in that range that you could just be like, yeah, he'll probably just play. Like he'll probably just play, but it'll never be great. Clowney maybe even is like to some degree was like that too. It was like pretty raw, but you can't coach someone to be 6'10" who can shoot threes. And all of a sudden you're like, but if it doesn't come together, it's all over. Right. So I don't know. I think they're going to shoot all upside here. So like between these guys, I think they would like take Queen and be like, let's just go for it. Like maybe we can put it all together. And then the all together for him is like, not like Giannis, but I don't know. Something like that. like it's not that, but it's like something like that maybe.
Yeah, and that's why when we look back at it, I mean, they say Trey Johnson kind of got some of that athleticism, upside athleticism to his game. Well, shot and other things here, but it's like walking back through the draft, the VJ Edgecombe conversation, right? That you're there at 3 or 4, if Ace Bailey or not, right? Like the guys that you think, hey, all we need to do is build on what they already have there, and then underneath that model, and I don't think you're off base with that. You start to kind of push some of these other guys away to the side, right? And you say, okay, maybe when we look inside this top 10, you're really talking about, or let's even say, when you start talking about from 6 to 12, where the Nets are most likely looking at that crop of players, out of these 6, maybe there's really 2 or 3 that the Nets would be having their eyes on. The maybe unfortunate part for the way we talk about it is, I don't know, like maybe then Jeremiah Fears kind of falls into that category. Well, if he can figure it out, he's, shot out of a cannon, amazing. He could be a one offensive player, but that's different in terms of untapped upside. A lot of what we talked about with him was like, if he can clean up in quotes, clean up these areas, make this as efficient as possible, then you have something. These other guys, we're really speaking to, what if there's more, right? What if we haven't seen the ceiling yet fully on these guys and there's all the footprints to get there? That makes it an interesting conversation. You can make the case, by the way, that Nick Claxton falls into that category. Like, we've now had him on the roster for years. When they took him, that was the same thing. Oh, if this guy, he played point guard in high school, if he can start to show some of that game and pass a little bit and have a shot, now we're having a different conversation. Never happened, but that was the same look. And maybe you're pulling on the right kind of thread here with Sean Marks and the way that they look in general at prospects in the draft.
I think I just, the more I think about this and just like thinking, because I think it's like always, I think it's been up to this point, like, Marks is like the safe guy, but he really hasn't been. Like he actually has made, he's actually like, Marks is like very much a big swing guy. I'm not, like, maybe I was just in my mind, he wasn't. Like I told myself a different story about him, but like
only difference here is where
this
they're
whole
drafting,
kind of
right?
thing is big swings. What's that?
The only difference here is where they're drafting, right? So you can make the case maybe he's taking bigger swings because they're picking later in the draft. Now, you can even extend this beyond the draft and say he also takes big swings signing Kyrie Irving, getting Kevin Durant. Like maybe
That's
what
I mean.
The model
is
just big swings no matter what we do. But this would be the first time, right, that he gets a high draft pick.
I was factoring that in. Yeah, no, I was factoring in those other moves. It's like, swing, trade everything for Harden. Go for it. Okay, well, like hold out and make sure you get Ben Simmons back. Who, like, I know it was a disaster, but like whatever. It was like still like they swung for an All NBA player at the time to come back in that deal, right? It's like, okay, we'll hold on to McHale, and you have to give us everything. We'll hold on to Durant, you have to give us everything. Like he does kind of go big or go home. And I think that that's going to play out in this draft too. I actually, now that I've said this out loud, I'm actually reverting my case. I actually don't think he's going to go for the high floor guys. I think it's all going to be upside. It's going to be like every pick is just going to be, what could you be? Not like kind of what you already are. Like what you already are is kind of like what you see is what you get. I think it's going to be like, let's see if we can get something way more. And if it has to happen,
a big swing. If we hit big.
Yeah.
If we miss, so be it.
Yeah. Anyway, so we'll see.
By the way, because we have a long way to go with 3 other picks in the first round. If that's the like, hey, we'll swing as big as humanly possible with our first pick, and then we can also supplement with other things. And who knows? You may end up saying 4 big swings. We take 4 big swings, and if 2 of them connect, we're gonna end up having some real talent that we can build around going forward.
And they have the show on, the Scout show that I actually haven't watched yet, which I will watch before next week. It's like it's like an in-depth behind the scenes leading into this draft. And I feel bad for actually not having watched it. If they had mentioned my name on it, like early, which they probably should have, then I probably would have watched it already. But when your name's not mentioned, it's like, I don't know, why bother? But anyway, I'm going to watch it next time. So if anyone's been watching that and be like, oh, they've addressed this on the show, apologies, I just haven't watched it. But before next
show with Adam Harmreck and Doug Norrie would have been a perfectly acceptable title for that program.
You're basically watching it now on Locked On Nets. Okay, we're gonna get out of here. We're gonna cover. I don't know who we're covering tomorrow. Who do we got tomorrow? Do we know off the top of our head?
We can Jase Richardson if we want to. Some Asa Newell. Well, I'll figure out how to say that one.
I really want to talk about Colin Murray Boyles.
Yeah, that was the other one.
CMB here is the guy that I would like to talk about. So maybe we'll do 3 guys tomorrow, because by then it's gonna be done. Because then it's going to be then it's lottery time. We're just going to kind of know. Okay. Make sure you hit like and subscribe wherever you listen to the podcast, YouTube, Spotify, iTunes, wherever. It's super free for you. All the way helps us. Just like and subscribe wherever you listen.
Who is richer? The man who is seen but cannot see, or the man who is not being seen but can see? And according to this website, it's from Babe Rutt, but I don't know if that was his name.
Well, these quotes.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, he's going to get the all-time greatest poet
100% accurate, because the first, I think of 2 things when I think of Babe Ruth, right? 3 things. First thing I think of is Sandlot. The second thing I think of is philosophizer. And then the third thing I think is I think he played some baseball at some point.
I just hate these "Who's Richer" quotes. Like those ones just drive me nuts because they're so pretentious. Anyway, thank man. All right,
that's the best way to lead in.
It's always like, okay, use another word. Just don't call it rich. Like come up with another word. We already have something that rich means. It's like whoever's money has the most money in their bank.
It was money. Okay? Yeah, I think it's money, right? Is it money?
We have a definition for that. Let's use that. Come up with some other douchebaggy word that gets you across you're like the person you want to be. Go ahead.
Hold on. Ready? Real quick.
Yeah.
Let's reset this quote. Who sees more? The man who is seen but cannot see, or the man who is not being seen but can see? That has a certain ring to it.
It just sounds like something my kid would have say ChatGPT.
Sounds like the worst fortune cookie that you gotta take.
It's like my 13-year-old's like trying to get deep on ChatGPT. Is like that's what that sounds like. Okay, one of the all-time great poets. We'll be back again next week. Oh no, sorry, tomorrow talking more Brooklyn Nets basketball.
Basketball.